If you want your best chance at pulling this awesome new full art promo that I just did, stick around, because boy do I have the deck for you. Welcome back to Tribit Council, where today we are going over the only deck that you're going to need for this Alolan Ninetales promo drop event. I really do believe this is the best deck that there is out there, but on top of all of that, I'm also going to be going over some tips and tricks, and those are just on the house. Those come for free. But I'm assuming a majority of your interests lie in checking out this deck and finding a good way to just farm these packs and get yourself some promo cards. So before we get into the tips and tricks, why don't we hop right into that? Before I get too ahead of myself, I do want to just go over the promo cards that are available in this promo drop event. We've got a lot of representation from the Alola region, which makes sense given the most recent set release. From what I can tell, these promo cards won't make huge waves in the ranked space and won't help you build the most meta decks right now. But for the collectors out there, like myself, still very important to completing your card decks, and they look pretty cool, so I'll slap the pull rates on all of them right now. 12.66% for Crabrawler, 15.82% for Alolan Grimer, 23.84% for Toucannon, Alolan Executor, and Alolan Ninetales, which is pretty cool. For whatever reason, they've upped the pull rate for the full art. Not sure why it's the highest out of these 5. If anything, it'll just make it that much more infuriating when you can't pull a Crabrawler of all things to complete the full promo set. But that's where using our deck to maximize efficiency comes into play. The deck for this event, which I have called Blitz and Steel, has around an 85% win rate, which may seem a little bit lower than others, but trust me, it's worth it when you consider all the angles that this thing is attacking. So this thing is going to consist of 2 Skarmory, 2 Professor's Research, 2 Adamant, 2 Pokemon Center Lady, 2 Giant Cape, 2 Rocky Helmet, 2 Potion, 1 Armor Fossil, 1 Shieldon, 1 Bastiodon, 1 Red, 1 Pokeball, and 1 Lumberry. There's a lot going on with this, and I'm sure it seems a little bit unorthodox, so let me run through some of the main points for this deck that make it the best thing you could be using for this event. For starters, it beats all of the side missions, which I think is its main claim to fame. Not only is the win rate great as an auto deck in the expert level, but also it is going to complete all of the side quests, so you don't have to switch anything up as you're moving along through these different tiers of the event. A few key examples of the battle tasks that this deck fulfills are putting 3 basic Pokemon into play, which the fossil counts. I was kind of surprised to find that out myself. But then also putting a stage 1 Pokemon into play and having all of your cards with a rarity less than or equal to 3 diamonds. I like this deck because Skarmory is super strong. Most of the people who are somewhat aware of the meta know this because Skarmory has been paired pretty well with Solgaleo throughout the past however many weeks in ranked mode, and with a fossil as your only other Pokemon, you are always drawing Skarmory first, which is actually part of the reason why we have so many Poke Tools. You always want to make sure you have one as soon as you have an energy, that way you are doing damage as fast as possible. Being quick is going to be important in this fight, as not the Alolan Ninetales so much, but the Crabominable EX is really powerful and will just start wailing on you if you give him a couple turns to set up. We're going to talk about substitutions in a second, but before that, I just want to mention why I only have 1 Armor Fossil line in this deck. I like the fact that with only 3 Pokemon, assuming you're drawing everything properly, they have to kill every single one of your guys since no one is an EX in order to win the battle. This gives the deck an ability to kind of wiggle around and squirm out of possible defeats, whereas with Dialga EX or Solgaleo EX or any of the other more traditional steel types in your deck, you could get snuck up on by losing 2 points all at once. But now I'll go on to substitutions just in case anyone wants or needs to change anything out. I know not everybody has every card, and also there's a little bit of like slight changes that you can make to make the earlier battles easier just in terms of the side quests and stuff. For the earlier tiers of the battles, Popplio is present and he can put your Pokemon to sleep, so maybe you want to consider pulling in another Lumberry instead of one of the Giant Capes or Rocky Helmets. But then also, since taking damage is less of a factor, you could consider switching out Adamant for, let's say, Giovanni. That way you're speeding through these battles faster because you can one-shot things like Dewpider and Popplio, which don't die since they don't have the steel weakness that Vulpix does. Logistics-wise, I assume everybody has Skarmory since it's pretty popular. It's been around for a while. It had a promo card available in I think one of the past drop events. But the Armor Fossil line, I can totally understand people not having. That one is maybe a little bit more niche. So if you want to, you can just not include it. Substitute in some extra trainers or something for your Skarmories, but they should be able to handle it. If luck's just not on your side at the moment and you really need some other Pokemon for that 3rd slot, Origin Form DL Dialga is a great choice as you don't really have to stack that much energy onto the Skarmories, and so a lot of your extra energy can just start going towards him. And if you're not worried about side quests, you could also consider throwing Solgaleo or Dialga EX in there, I suppose. But that covers about everything for the battle deck side of things. Why don't we just go through the rest of the event and check out some of the more intricate details, give you some tips and tricks on how to complete it overall. You know, this will apply more to all of the promo drop events rather than just be for this one. So right now I'm looking at the stats for the beginner battle of this event, and you can see that we're getting event hourglasses for some of these side quests. One thing I always like to point out is you should not be recovering all 5 stamina at once with these hourglasses. If you do, you will lose any progress time-wise that you had towards regaining one naturally. So just always use the recover 1 option and steer away from the recover 5. Here's a look at what the deck looks like for that beginner battle. Lots of random stuff thrown in here. Shouldn't be a huge problem, especially if you're using those Skarmories with a Giovanni. But moving on to the intermediate battle, this is where we've got our put a stage 1 Pokemon card into play. And then if you'll notice, I'll kind of highlight down here the chance rewards have changed. Now instead of a 51% chance, you've got a 64% chance to get a promo pack. This is another one of the big tips that I like to offer people in general as they're going about these promo drop events. I'll scroll all the way to the bottom to kind of make my point. You can see here at expert level, these promo packs stop being chance rewards and are just guaranteed every time you win. So we're always going to want to be using our stamina on expert battles, which is why it's so important that our auto deck is 85% win rate in that expert group. But coming back to intermediate, I want to touch on one last thing. Stuff like this win this battle by turn 14 side quest. If you're moving up through the ranks with these earlier tiers of these battles, make sure that you're paying attention to what turn you're on and stuff like that, because as you're battling, if you hit concede or just lose naturally, it'll refund you the stamina that it originally cost you to enter the battle. And since we know that the pack earning odds jump to 100% once we get to the expert tier, we want to spend as little time as possible on these earlier tiers. So if you know in your head that you're not going to earn every single side quest in one fell swoop, hit concede, start again, see if you can get a better draw, and just make sure that you're knocking all of these out at once. That way you're maximizing the efficiency that you're earning these packs with. As we go forward up the ranks, the side quests stay pretty straightforward and not really worth touching on further. So I'll go ahead and show off some of the decks that you'll be facing at these higher level battles. Worth noting here is the Lapras, which is not weak to your steel types and also has a little bit of health. Saving grace for us is that it takes a lot of energy to get going, and then it only does 70 once it does get going, so it shouldn't one-shot your Skarmory. Everything else we pretty much dealt with before, or it's weak to steel, so not much more to say there. But once we get to advanced, which I would argue is the hardest to face, even though we still have to get to expert, you've got stuff like Crabominable coming into play, Primarina, which is not weak to steel. Get past this one best you can. This could take some time, especially if you're trying to get all the side quests at once, like I mentioned before, but if you keep the substitutions in mind, the battle deck that we provided should have no issues getting through this. It might just be a matter of not having unlucky draws. And then finally, the expert deck. Everything has been much more simplified. There's a little bit of annoyance with Irida and Mars, but for the most part, Alolan Vulpix is weak to steel, Crabominable is weak to steel, so you should be able to plow through these. Use a little bit of strategy when it comes to Crabominable. Sometimes you'll have to be a little bit creative and careful with how you're using your heals or which Skarmory with which Poketool is in at the time. If you're able to get Bastiodon up, that's the win condition. They basically can't do anything to you, especially since they can't even damage you without passing a coin flip. Fossils can sometimes be a little tricky, as anyone abusing Rampardos right now knows, but that's not to say that Skarmory can't handle this all on its own. Just a lot easier if you can get Bastiodon out there. But I think with that, we've covered everything that we possibly can for this promo event. Go out there and get yourself some promo packs in the most efficient and best way possible. I think I'll motion to end things here. All those opposed, click through, check out some of our ranked battle decks. There's going to be more coming out hopefully soon, which will show you the best ways to climb in the second season of ranked. But then all those in favor, you can just hit subscribe. That way, either way, we can catch you in the next one. Thanks guys, as always, for watching, and again, good luck with your pulls.